Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the live stream. My name is Matt Bailey. I'm the National Ambassador for the Scotch Malt Whisky Society here in Australia. Really appreciate you tuning in. It's live stream. It's Tuesday night. It's 8 o'clock. It's a little bit later than when I normally go. For those who are regulars to the stream, you'll know it's normally 7 o'clock. We're going a little bit later. The day sort of got away from me. Caught up with Susie earlier today, which was fantastic. We work out of different offices, and even before COVID. So being able to catch up with Susie, grab some stuff off her, transfer some stuff to her, and sometimes work together in the same office is always good. So we're sort of running around a bit today, so a bit of a later stream, but I appreciate you tuning in. And I thought I'd make it a bit of a special one because it's a big week ahead. This is my only real opportunity to do a normal society live stream in a way, because tomorrow night is the launch of the Whiskey and Almond 72.89 Pirates Breakfast Juice, the exclusive cask for them. Thursday night is Canberra, live like a real person, in-person tasting, which is a whiskey dinner where each dish has been paired to each cask over at Courgette Restaurant. We're very excited about that. And then, which is one of the best restaurants, not just in the Canberra, but in Australia. And then, of course, we're also going with Friday night, which is the Balblair Exploration Night at the Royal Automobile Club. And then we're also going with Saturday night is the virtual gathering, the big virtual gathering with these packs. Hope to see you there. If you haven't got a pack already, might be a bit late to order one now, but you know what? Come along for the ride. I'm having a belter of a jam, and it's fantastic. Good to hear. Evening, Robert Akers, Mark Teague, a few other people who are just Facebook users on my screen, I'm afraid, but PBJ, that is correct. Pirates Breakfast Juice. Looking forward to that one. I'm looking forward to doing the preview, if you like, the official launch, the virtual launch tasting, which would have been an in-person big launch tasting this year, of course. But COVID had other plans, but that's okay. We all live, we all adapt, we all do what we can. Huge night in Brisbane on Thursday. Sorry, Scott. God, I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry. I was saying a lot of people. Also, Thursday night in Brisbane, sold out. Thursday night in Canberra, sold out. Malt Dining, we're looking forward to being with them again this Thursday, and Courgette Thursday for Canberra. And then the week after is going to be the Hobart one, which I think there's still a small handful of tickets left, but has been selling very well. Good to see people so keen to come back out to events. All the events are in COVID-safe environments. They're all at venues that have been look after us. We know what we're doing there. We know how to sanitize, sterilize, all those kind of things. So, yeah, look, let's get on to tonight, shall we? So, I've got something on my desk here. This is, of course, a Vaults Collection bottling. I'll show you what it looks like with the lid closed, actually. So it's got a nice little latch on this one. Oh, what's going on here? I think my latch is a little bit stuck. It's because I was playing with it too much. Okay, but it's got, there it is. There we go. The bottle looks nicely recessed in the Vaults bottling, in the Vaults boxes here. So it says Vaults Collection 2020. The Vaults Collection for us at the Society is the top of the range. This is some of the rarest stocks that the SMWS are sitting on, and are going to be released. This one's going to be released soon. I can't say the exact date when, but we're going to be releasing this one soon. But we're going to be featuring it at a couple of tastings, including Brisbane and Canberra coming up. So that's very exciting. So it's rare for us to be able to even open one of these. We've had some 24s lately that I've not even had the chance to taste a couple of them because they're extremely expensive bottlings. And it's not like a 30-year-old sherry 24 passes my desk every day. If anyone feels like buying me a bottle of that, you are very welcome to. I will not say no. I might even give you a shout out. There you go. I'm just kidding. Need some events in Adelaide. Yes, I know. Jenny's working on that. She was worried that with restrictions at the moment on some of the venues that we've been working with down there, we're a bit funny about whiskey tastings coming back so soon. So we're just playing it by ear for Adelaide, but it's one day at a time at the moment. Oops, evening, guys. Good to see you, James. Jim Finnegan, good to see you. Okay, so the first Whiskey and Almond, this is actually the second Whiskey and Almond exclusive, 68.18 from a few years back. The Triple Berry Lamington Cake was their first exclusive. This is their second one. It's called Pirate's Breakfast Juice. It is available to attendees of the event and will be available in our October outturn as well. So don't worry, there's plenty to go around. We've got the whole cask, but I say that, but I know it's going to vanish. It's a Whiskey and Almond exclusive. It's going to vanish. So I want to hope that answers your question. Now let's open. You know what? I'm on the stream tonight to open this. Now this is 95.39 Indian Summer in a Japanese Garden. Now when you press the little clasp on the side here, the door opens. Ooh, nice little bronze hinges, and it's got a full tasting card note on the front here. I want to read this first. It says, "Imagine an early afternoon walk during a beautiful Indian summer through a forest collecting mushrooms as well as searching for, with the help of your best friend, the truffle hunting dog, this highly prized fungus. On the palette neat, we found a Waldorf salad made with fruits and nuts all served on a bed of lettuce, and this time perfectly dressed in vinaigrette made from Pedro Jimenez grapes that have been aged for many years in an oak Solera system. The soft, round sweetness perfectly balanced the sharpness. Tiny drop of water, a delicate, woody perfumed aroma was released, and we finished in an oriental Japanese garden with plum wine. This sounds delightful." So the bottle is nicely housed in these Vaults Collection releases. Nicely sits in this sort of like this locking foam, if you like. It's very firm in there. Like it's not going to just fall out. I could hold it like that. And it's not going to fall out. And I like that design. So we pull this out from the top, pop that box side there. And here we have 95.39, a Vaults Collection release, distilled 1982, full maturation in a refill ex-sherry butt. So this isn't something that maybe had a bit of finishing or a bit of re-racking, although that's not a bad thing. It's just the way it is. This is a 38-year-old deep, rich and dried fruits. Old and dignified. Sorry, my mistake. Old and dignified 95.39. And this Distillery 95 is one of the hardest distilleries to say correctly. Sorry, some of these comments are quite funny. Robert Aker says, "Does the door open smoothly?" No, it opens with flavor and punch, Rob. Irena says, "A neck minute, we see Bailey using 95.39 as barbecue marinade. Don't try and stop me. I might end up doing it." So I'm going to open this tonight. I'm going to open this. When I say tonight, I mean right now. I'm going to pour a glass of it. Get that open up. There we go. Should I keep this little top bit on the cork? I will for now. Now, remember, this has spent 38 years in oak maturing. This is older than me. This is older than many of our members. So I'm going to just open that up. There's the bottle open. You've seen me open it here. And I'm going to pour a glass into one of our society coppers. I'm not going to pour an awful lot. I don't need a lot of this, but I'm just going to have a taste. Got 15-ish mils there. Okay, I'll pop the cork back in that. First things first, I've not even nosed this yet, but the aroma is starting to fill the room. That is 38 years in sherry. 38 years in sherry cask. So I wouldn't get too, I always like to say, don't get too caught up on the whole sort of what color a sherried whiskey should be. Be more impressed by the balance of the statement, the balance of the age of that whiskey, and what that 38 years has done to this spirit. Let that move around in the glass just for a moment. And I'm going to need to let that sit. That's lovely. The nose on that is it's immediately, it's an old whiskey straight away. You do get that old whiskey note. Now, that's a really broad brushstroke, I know, because old whiskeys adopt all sorts of aromas and flavors and compounds that are quite complex, quite delicate, often quite sort of sit around different ways. How about using it for some brownies? Gary, only you'd be able to do that best. Liking the hair, thank you. Yes, Rob, it was getting a bit out of control, so I've had it tidied up a bit, kept the length on top though. You know how it is. Just invite me over when you do it. Yeah, okay, I read it, done. And I would have thought it would be darker. See, that's the comment I was waiting for. I can't see who made it. I'm sorry, but 38 years, you'd think that would be darker. I've got a fair bit of light coming into the room right now from these lamps, but that is 38 years in ex-sherry. When you see these really, really dark whiskies, I mean, often old whiskey, it doesn't have that super dark color. If it does, it's probably flawed. It's probably sat in a cask too long. And that's why you do see that happen. You see some whiskies that are even 30 years that are much darker. You see whiskies that are 20 years that are much darker. Hell, I've seen 3-year-old whiskey that is twice as dark as this. But this is definitely a delicate sherry whiskey. That's not. I don't anticipate this being a sherry bomb by any standards. I anticipate it being quite a balanced, old, delightful spirit. Now, whilst I'm letting that sit and oxidize slightly in the glass just to waken up a bit here, I'm just going to bring up my other screen here so you can see a little bit what I'm talking about. Here it is, 95.39, Indian Summer in a Japanese Garden, a 38-year-old Vaults collection, full maturation in a refill ex-sherry butt. And you can see there it is distilled 15th of January, 1982. If anyone here is an 82 person, please leave a comment because I want to know what year. Like, let me actually even tell me if you're even older than 82, or if 82 is your birth year, or if maybe you're younger than 82. Let me know. I'd love to know. It's true. It's true. I've not tasted this before. I've literally just opened this Vaults Collection bottling tonight in all its glory. Here it is. I've just opened it tonight, Rob, and I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this, I promise. Oh, it's very subtle in a really nice way, though. Like, the sherry has not overwhelmed it straight away. That's the first impression. When I know I'm coming into a sherried whiskey, there are some expectations. It's like, I'm going to get those deep, rich, dried fruits. I'm going to get that fruit cake. I'm going to get that dusty old grape mulled wine notes. Don't get it straight away. I don't get it straight away. 1 year off, 10 years. Yeah, Nick, yeah, you're a young chap. Yeah, you'll be fine. That's why you'll be okay, actually, finding 92 bottlings aren't too bad. Not too bad now. Okay, so, although, I mean, still, yeah. Let's have a look at this. Let's go through some of these things here on the screen. So I want to show you what this distillery looks like. I haven't even said the name of it because it's a bit of a bastard to say, honestly. There it is. There's the distillery in all its glory. I will say it just for this stream. It is Arthrusk. If anyone wants to correct me on that, it's not Ochroysk. Although I have heard someone from Diageo say Ochroysk. So I mean, they could be. I mean, they work there, and so Anyway, but this is Arthrusk Distillery, and it is Distillery 95 in our language. It's a fairly unknown distillery by anyone's measure. I mean that. It's one of those distilleries that, there it is, that is relatively unknown. It's 1972 also it was built. So this is not a distillery that has been around for a long time. If anyone says to you, oh, I've got a lovely 1970 Arthrusk, tell them they're full of sod, because that's not possible. The distillery didn't exist until 1972. And you can sort of get a cue of that. You can get sort of a feel of what year this distillery was built just from the architectural style. Any architects in the room, just please, shout out. Scott Mansfield knows this dram already. He's he's our state manager in Queensland. He knows this whiskey well, and he's looking forward to presenting this one on the Thursday. Scott, I'd love to hear how you and PJ went along with this. So there we have the very sort of 1972 looking distillery. I'll show you another angle. There you go. That photo's quite old, actually. I did not take that photo, nor the one before it. I have not been to the distillery personally. I don't believe they have a visitor center, so it's not one that you'd deliberately go to stop in at and say hello to people, because it's very much a workhorse distillery. Most of it goes into most of the distillery their output goes into Just Irene and Brooks or J&B blended whiskey. This distillery was built to sort of celebrate the growth of blended whiskey in the 70s. They were looking at this distillery being sort of the next phase of blended whiskeys. It was first bottled, however, as a single malt in 1986, which is about 5 years before the Society did. So this is not one of these distilleries that is first off the rank for us. We did not herald these guys as a single malt before they did. They did before us. And it's still not even to this day though. There's no core range from this distillery. There's no sort of like, you can't walk into sort of like your supermarket bottler or your Dan Murphy's or whatever and find an Arthurisk 12-year-old, 15-year-old, 18-year-old. That doesn't exist. They do, however, have a few bottlings that they've released over the years, which I'll touch on in just a moment. Gary says he's older than the distillery, let alone this release. But isn't that cool to think that what I'm nosing here was distilled only 10 years after the distillery was built? I can't even. There's even Australian whiskey distilleries that I can't even do that at. So, I mean, you have to go back a fair bit for some of those. So you're sort of like, this is a whiskey that I'm tasting that was distilled only 10 years after the whole distillery was even built. Architectural style. So like kind of ugly. Yeah, it is a little bit ugly. It's not the most attractive distillery. As I always say, you've got sort of two levels of attractiveness as a distillery. You've got Strathisla and you've got Tomerton, and they are the opposite ends. Strathisla, I think, is the prettiest distillery in Scotland. Tomerton's probably the ugliest. I'm going to be proven wrong on that, however. Hi, David and/or Caroline Taylor. Always good to see you, mate. Okay. Just joined the live. Is this malt of the month? Sweet. Is this 38-year-old Vaults Collection malt of the month? It is not, but it will be available soon. I promise. So, 1996, Sam, you are a baby boy sometimes. Thank you for reminding me. Okay, so there we have the distillery. There we have the rather, I guess I'm going to call them fairly traditional stills in many ways in terms of their shape and style. It's your classic sort of, it's very much a classic sort of, it looks a bit like the stills at Glenmurray, but the spirit that comes off these stills is closer in profile to something like Blair Athol. It's quite a nutty, spicy spirit character. Again, I've not had the opportunity to even taste their new make, but from what I've been told, it is a nutty, spicy character, which is reflected in their core range, in their releases that they've done over the years, which I'll touch on in just a moment. There's another aerial shot of a very, very, very workhorse distillery. One of the problems with this distillery over the years was actually finding a good water supply. Was finding a good way to actually get water to the distillery. That was always something that was always tricky. And it was first bottled. I was going to go back to when it was bottled as single malt back in '86, but which it was where it carried the prefix of Singleton. So some of you may know Singleton as a brand. It started as this was the first distillery to be bottled as Singleton. And if I recall correctly, I might get this wrong. Anyone's happy to correct me. Singleton brand came about because of the from people not being able to pronounce the name of this distillery. They knew that people wouldn't be able to say Arthrusk, Arthrusk, or however you want to say it. They knew they'd be a bit stuck there. Big call from State Manager Alex Moores. Ugliest goes to Deanston, I reckon. Sorry, Deanston. Deanston is an ugly distillery. I'll give you that. I think maybe 10 years ago I would have said Glen Scotia is an ugly distillery, but since their facelift, it's quite a beautiful distillery now. Since they gave it a fresh lick of paint and did the big wall with the Glen Scotia on the wall and everything, it looks actually quite nice now. Trent says, good evening, 1978, so I'm a little older than the whiskey. Only a little bit. This was still when you were 4 years old, Trent. How cool is that? This is proper distilling history here. So I'm going to come back to the nosing and tasting of this whiskey in just a moment. Let it sit in the glass for a bit. There is what it looks like today, the Singleton, but of course it used to say the Singleton Arthrusk. Actually, I don't know if it actually had Arthrusk written on the distillery there. I don't know. I have to go back to one of those labels. But I thought I'd include that photo because down the bottom it says perfectly balanced and smooth. Just going back to that topic of talking about smooth. So there it is as we've seen it before, as a 10-year-old, bottle of the 10-year-old as a flora and fauna release. This was a release. These were, I guess, core range releases from Diageo, and they were under the flora and fauna releases. Mostly 10-year-old whiskies in that series. There were some older ones at one point that came in nice wooden boxes. And every so often, like back in 2016, Diageo's special releases each year would put out something like this, a 25-year-old example of their spirit, which is admirable to see. Because again, it's not a distillery we hear much about. It's not one we know much about, other than what I've already sort of touched on tonight. And it's like I say, it was commissioned as a blending distillery. It still is a blending distillery. Most of their stock still goes into blending, but every so often we might be able to score just a pinch of it here and there for some single cask society. And considering the society is about 38-ish years old, and this is the 39th cask we've ever bottled, that gives you an indication of how few we've seen of these. So the first one was bottled in 91. Now we're up to 2020. There we go. So Scott says, who's tasted this, says, sit back and take your time with this dram. Classic note, fruitcake nose. For the Scots out there, it noses like a dunder cake, which are fruitcake but a bit more clove. I've heard of dunder cake. I don't know if I've ever had dunder cake. Oh, you got the 25 from an airport. Good one. Tiny font at the bottom, yeah. Okay, thank you for that, Robert. I didn't realize where they put the font for the distillery name on this one. So that's our 95.39. Now I've only had a quick nose when I first poured it, which was the neck pour, as we say. I'm just going to have another nose now. Yeah, it's opened up lovely now. Oh, there's something about old whiskey. Also, I mean, it's 53.0%, 53.0 on the head. Oh, yeah, definitely. Like it's got that. It's really got that lovely. It does have almost just a little bit of that. I guess you could say dunder cake. I'm going to say fruit cake. I'm getting almost a tiny bit of sort of like almost like Aussie damper as well. Freshly cooked damper. Yeah, wow. And when you're nosing it, it's one of those ones that will appreciate you being nosed with your mouth open, with your mouth closed, with the different ways of appreciating it. I get what they mean by those truffle and mushroom notes. There's an earthiness to this. Now, that is something that I have found with other 95s. Members who were members last year will remember the 95. Can't remember the code, but it was one we featured at a couple of events, and I think it was a 9 or a 10-year-old, and it was remarkable, really remarkable stuff. A few questions coming in. How much / how many? I can't tell you the how much just yet. We are working on that, but the how many, we've got 40, I think, coming into the country. So we've got a few. We've got a few to go around, which is great. Rather than it being something like 12 that vanishes on a ballot or something, we've got a few of these coming in, which is great. Dundee cake. Dundee cake. Oh, right. Not Dunder. Sorry. I'd have to look it up. Like I said, I'm not really sure. Pardon me. Quite perfumed as well on the nose. I've not even tasted this yet, but it's quite perfumed. It's quite aromatic. That's something special. That is remarkable. To really, actually, I mean, just want to take a moment. Just take a moment to appreciate as well. Sorry, Rowan asks, join late. What year is this distilled? 1982. It's a Vaults Collection release, 95.39, 1982. Well, we'll just talk about that, Rowan. So there you go. This is it's aromatic, and it's got like clove, Indian spices, gentle floral notes. Definitely like this. I was about to say, I just want to appreciate the time that goes into maturation. And we're talking about something that was matured for 38 years. Now, would this be more valuable as a 40-year-old whiskey? Probably. But it was bottled when it was ready. It was bottled when it was ready at 38. The panel tasted it, went, this is ready. This is fantastic. Let's bottle it. When is this coming out? Soon. That's my only answer so far. We are featuring it at a couple of events later this week. But it'll be out. It'll be announced shortly after. I promise. Yeah, 40 is a good allocation. Good that it can be shared at tastings. That's the whole idea, Rob. We could have just put this on an outturn. It could have just sort of it'd vanish and it'd be squirreled away into a lot of collections. But the idea is that we can actually sit down and taste this with people who will appreciate it. Is something quite special, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited by this bottling. There it is one more time. It comes in its lovely Vaults Collection box that I showed just before, and it's something rather special right there. Now, it does say on the tasting notes, I've had a taste of it now. And I'm getting that lovely sort of grape sweetness. Like I say, damper note, very soft, very rounded on the palate, very balanced, very silky, silky mouthfeel on it. Like perfumed, like freshly perfumed charred wood in a way, like charred oak. It's not charred oak, but it has that sort of um, very like soft perfume, like very much like old perfume, silky perfume notes. That's a keeper. You know what? It does say, however, with a tiny drop of water. Try it with a tiny drop of water. Yes, Nick Husek, you are going to try it on in Thursday in Canberra. I'm bringing this with me. It's in the lineup for Canberra. There's a big reveal. So Canberra and Brisbane have this in the lineup. Very exciting. I'm going to pour just a drop of water into this. Just a drop, just really just a tiny bit. Oh, and look at that. Well, wow. Well, what did I use to put the water in just then? Our new society water jugs. Wow, wow. Clap, 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 clap. I think actually that works on the nose with water. I think that really does. I don't expect whiskey of this age to ever work with water. Sorry if you're getting a real Horst Lunig moment just then with me swishing that on a microphone, but it does happen. Oh, Owen, I'm sorry to hear you missed out. Look, Owen, there's a lot more events coming where we'll be cracking open lots of lovely whiskey, so don't stress too much. And Rowan, at no Bell Blair event, could have been the welcome round. Rowan, you're in for a real treat at Bell Blair anyway. I wouldn't stress too much about that. What's happening at the Bell Blair night is already incredible. So don't worry too much about the Bell Blair night. This is not a Bell Blair, so it would make no sense. Got my jug on the way. Good stuff, Jim. And I look forward to that. Jim, you take some amazing photos. Seriously, I love the photos you take with society bottles and your weekend spread. Sometimes, as I think you put it. So I'm looking forward to how you put that together. I'm enjoying this way too much. The finish just keeps going and going and going. And with old whiskey, it's more about the subtraction rather than the addition, if that makes sense. Especially now these days, I find at the moment we are often surrounded by a lot of young whiskey, and that is great because I'm tasting a lot of great spirit distillate. I'm tasting a lot of great. When I say young, I mean whiskeys that are sort of locally. We're tasting a lot of whiskey that's 2 to 5 years of age. However, even great Scotch whiskies in that sort of 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old age bracket that have so much character. I saw a conversation on our Facebook group just earlier today about a belter of a dram. That's a 7-year-old whiskey from memory. Yeah, it's a 7-year-old spicy and sweet, full maturation sherry. It's a sherry bomb. It's a belter of a whiskey as well. And so it's one of those whiskeys that like carries so much power and heft and punch. This is not that. This is a different kind of whiskey. And you're sort of transported to what, like I say, it's subtraction. It's what it doesn't have in some ways. It's like that Bruce Lee thing about it's about whittling away all the unnecessary until you only have the necessary kind of thing. This is almost like that. There's so much complexity in the glass, but at the same time, it doesn't have it doesn't have that big, powerful peat punch. Good. It doesn't have that sort of crazy high proof. Good. And it sits and is lovely and sits in that sort of realm of I guess rarefied existence that a cask could even go that length of time. Just think about that. Blows my mind. And it's the finish. I've had 2 sips of this, and the finish is still going. I'm talking 29 minutes out now on this video, and that finish is still going. Well, I mean, I poured it a little bit later, but you know what I'm saying. I've been on 20 minutes on this dram now, and it's still going. There's so much going on here, which is like I say, it's like almost a bit of that herbal, funky forest, that old school sherry, that sort of old school sherry that has been slumbering away since the early 80s, and the fact that it's been sitting in one cask that whole time and absorbing all that complexity without being moved around, re-racked, etc. We'll manage to score this off the distillery without it being, being spoiled. If I was to give you a drinking tip on this one, my God, how good is the palate on it? It would definitely be sort of like, as the tasting notes allude to, this is a whiskey for a warm afternoon. This is a whiskey for a warm Sunday afternoon with friends or loved ones who will appreciate it with you. It's one of those whiskeys that will transport you to a place and time and place and an aroma, and that is just something else. It's almost criminally good. It's whiskey has no right to taste this good sometimes, and I mean that. It's one of those. I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. I talk very good of some whiskeys, and I'm very critical of others, and I know that. But yeah, that's a really good question here from Rob Akers, who asks, "Is the spirit character still evident?" That's a really hard one to say, Rob. It's certainly not soaked by cask. That's for sure. You can even tell from that color, it is not overly soaked by cask. It's not one of those whiskeys where the spirit character is lost in sherry. So there is spirit distillate. This spirit character there, it's evident. It is a refill sherry cask. It's had 38 years in a refill. Hashtag team refill. So it's not. It's certainly not one that is lost. The spirit character is not lost. If I'm being overly critical, and I love you guys over at Pernod, but if you taste Abelard New Make, if you ever get the opportunity to taste a New Make, which they do on the tours there, it's a remarkable New Make. It's a lovely New Make character. It's sweet, it's rounded, it's balanced, it's clean, it's lovely. And then if you have if you taste a Bunna, there's no spirit character there. It's just sherry. It's just sherry. Now, if you like that kind of thing, you either just like sherry or you like that style of overly where the cask influence has overwhelmed the spirit. I've said this on streams before. I'll say it again. Cask, spirit, meet in the middle. And that's where every good whiskey should be bottled, and every good whiskey should aim for that balance of spirit and oak, not just where the spirit character overwhelms and you end up with this very spirit forward whiskey with like a hint of oak. You need a little bit longer on the oak. That's an undermatured whiskey then. Then you got over oak, where the oak character has overwhelmed the spirit. Every distillery has its sweet spot. Even whiskey itself, I find, depending on the country and grain type used and stills and casks and everything, every distillery has its sweet spot. Most distilleries in Scotland have their sweet spot somewhere between 8 and 15 years, depending on what it is. However, I mean, we do things differently at the society, as you may know. And if we can find something that has gone that length of time, the fact that a cask can even last 38 years without destroying the spirit and losing that character is quite remarkable. A finish to savor. Oh, unbelievable, Scott. It's just so good. That'll suit my summertime birthday then. Happy birthday, Robin. I hope you get a chance to crack this open when we release it and enjoy it for your birthday, because it's one that appreciates time in the glass, time at home, time wherever you are enjoying it. If I was to give you a drinking tip with this whiskey, it would be to get a second job. That's my favorite comment of the night. Thank you so much. Can't even see who said it, but I'll put it up on screen anyway. Hashtag team refill. Hashtag team refill. You know what? Refill casks are beautiful. And I know that some places they work, some places they don't, but most of the time they provide this lovely balance to the spirit, and I love them. Amazing. And I see what it means. I see what that tasting note about that sort of, with water, that tasting note of vinaigrette comes out a bit more. That's Waldorf salad vinaigrette note. This is not all whiskey is supposed to be smooth. I write about a little bit about this in our October outturn, which we'll be able to read soon. It's just it's an exciting whiskey, but it harks back to another era of distillation, another era of spirit, another era of exciting flavor. I'm going to leave that much in my glass. I'm going to come back to another 10 minutes, but you don't need to wait for me to do that. Thank you so much, everyone who's been tuning in tonight and tuning in as always. We've got a huge week of gathering nights coming up. Whiskey and Helmet tomorrow night, Brisbane, Canberra Thursday night, Sydney Balblair Exploration on Friday night, a distillery focus night. I love distillery focus nights, which I'm hosting with Andy Milne from South Trade. Lovely bloke. You've got to meet him. And Saturday night is, of course, Global Gathering for the Australian branch, where we'll all be, Andrew and I will be sitting here opening these, enjoying a few drams, and I hope you can come along for the ride. In the meantime, thank you so much, as always, for tuning in, for being a part of the society, for being part of the whiskey community and wider whiskey fabric that we all enjoy. Enjoy great whiskey, enjoy responsibly, and enjoy bloody old fantastic whiskey when you get the chance. I'll see you all probably tomorrow at some point. I'll see you all. Thank you so much. Cheers.